Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, you are now witnessing the strength of the OGEU knowledge. Welcome, everybody. My name is Abu Nas. Right here next to me on this side is the wonderful, beautiful, awesome, super stupendous, awesome, and terrific Mary Mayhem. And we got our other panel guests running late, but they will be here in a moment. So let's get this party started right. Wookiee supremacy, what's going on? Hopefully these people will start pouring in because I got it on public. I'm assuming.
That's quite an introduction.
Yeah, I know. It's been a while since we've been actually here, so hopefully people will be coming in, but let's get this party started right about now. Oh, yeah. Let's start it, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our ongoing live stream showing appreciation and love to the Star Wars saga, episodes 1 through 6. We have already blazed through the prequels, episodes 1 through 3. And now we're about to start things off with the big granddaddy of them all, the one that started it all, the one that changed the game and changed the name of science fiction fantasy forever. Episode 4, A New Hope. Big shout out to D. Cott, Rebels, OB1 Vlog, Jerry Wingmill, Wookiee Supremacy. What is going on? So happy to see you guys here. And you know what? I just ran into this little tweet by your boy Freddie Prinze Jr. And you know he's running his fucking mouth again, just rambling on to some bullshit. You know, because his birthday just passed. So somebody was wishing him a happy birthday. And they said something about Star. I wish I could have kept the tweet, but I was so pissed off just him opening up his fucking mouth. I just was like, you know what? I can't with this dude. So I'm gonna treat everybody a little something before we get started. And it is about our boy Frederick. And I want to tell you the story about Frederick's life. You know, the lame ass bastard that he is. I'm going to tell you a little something about his life. So, get your hats ready. And listen to how I'm breaking this fool down. So we're going to rewind selector. And going to put it a little something like this. Here we go. Now, Frederick's story is such a sad tale, but I'm gonna break it down to you anyway. Once again, yeah, you know who I be. About to break this shit down for your boy Freddie P. You know, that D-list boy from Scooby-Doo, running around on Twitter acting like he's so cool, disrespecting all the fans like he's the man. But I'm in the house now and I'll make him understand the bullshit he's on won't be tolerated. Now you're up against the one that's the most hated. Let me break it down to the lowest compound so we can see exactly why he's a clown. Oh, please hang around, turn your frown upside down. I make you more famous, you don't have to make a sound. You was born on March 8th, 1976, to a great comic legend and some real estate chick. You wasn't born in New York, you was born in Hollywood. Proof alone that your life wasn't going anywhere. Oh yeah, you disagree, so let's see into the crystal ball of the life of Freddie P. Grew up in New Mexico, where life was slow. In high school was the furthest he'll ever go. Then he moved to LA to get a little fame. He was trying to get all that off his father's name. Then someone said, alright, let me see what you got. Got a little spot for you. Guest spot on Family Matters. What a damn shame. It's the first step for him to make a name. I know what you did last summer was your shit, cause that was the movie where you met the Buffy chick. You fucked her, you married her, that's the smart move. Then you thought to yourself, yo, my luck is coming through. I'll be the next Brad Pitt, fucking with this bitch. Need to stay with her so I could get filthy rich. Didn't pan out that way when you did Scooby-Doo. To make matters worse, you went and did part 2. That corny ass movie didn't put you on top. It It did the opposite, it got your fucking ass dropped. You know what I'm talking about, your sitcom. It lasted one season, then that shit was gone. Try to do what your father did, I understand. You wanted your shit to be like Chico and the Man, but nope, they knew what you was from the jump. Living in your father's shadow like a fucking chump. Can't get over the hump, you know I'm not surprised. A mediocre actor living off his life. He auditioned for Jigsaw, for Warzone. Lionsgate Studios says send that boy home. Now finally he gets a job he can't deny. Working at Lucasfilm as a Jedi. Not the movie one, mind you, no, not for him. A voice actor for cartoons, straight for the win. 4 seasons later, he's out of a job. He's hanging on Twitter, acting like a star to all the fans who helped build this franchise. When he's spitting out nonsense, telling more lies about he stalks and he slays and he won in his way. I'm begging you, Fred, come step my way. Nope, not at all. He muted me quick cause I was stomping on his ass, crying like a little bitch over my shirtless pic that made him lose his shit, proving a valid point that he can't even get. Don't let your boy Pablo gas your head up. Don't let Ryan Johnson gas your head up. Don't let Dave Filoni gas your head up. Don't let Kathleen Kennedy gas your head up. Don't let your wife Buffy gas your head up. Don't let your management team gas your head up. About you, Freddie Prinze, we get less than a fuck. And that's all I got.
Oh, that was lovely.
Of course, I had to roast Frederick in the best way possible. So, and with that being said, my 2 panel members are back in the house. What is going on?
What's up?
What up? This
now
is
awesome. we can get this party started the right way.
Yes.
So let's go around and introduce our panel members, starting with the sexy, lovely Mary Mayhem. Tell me a little about yourself and where we can find you.
Oh my goodness. Well, guys, I am Mary B. I am the mistress of mayhem, disruptor of the narrative, and official women card holder. You can find me over on my channel, Mary Mayhem, where I talk about news and stuff during the week. You can also find me on Geeks and Gamers, as well as Midnight's Edge and sometimes Midnight's Edge After Dark. You can also find me here tonight.
Yeah, boy. And my partner in crime, the only pimp that can make Abu stay quiet for long periods of time, the Legends gal herself, who is burning up the YouTube and Twitter sphere with EU law that you have to adhere to. OG Star Wars, tell me a little bit about yourself and where they can find you.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us here. We are discussing the classic, the movie that started this all, Star Wars, A New Hope. So, interesting fact, many of you guys may know, and if you don't know, it was never called A New Hope. It was originally called Star Wars.
Yep.
All right. So you can find me on OG Star Wars YouTube channel, and you can find me on Twitter. I am your Legends girl, trying to make it in this canon world. Thank you so much for coming in and joining us. I'm also with the lovely ladies of Toxic Femininity and Satan Menace, and I'm here to bring you the lore and keep your heart where it's at with George Lucas era.
Damn right. And last but never least, finally got him on my channel. It's been a long time coming. Ord's Board in the building. Tell me a little about yourself and where we can find you, brother.
Well, first of all, this is completely unreal. So thank you for having me. This is awesome. Yeah, you guys can find me over on YouTube, man, doing pop culture news, gaming streams, that whole bit. Ord's Board, I'm bored, guys. So come join the board meeting. Give me some company. I'm over there hanging out. You can find me on Twitter at the same handle. You guys can also find me over on the Drunk 3PO channel. Shout out to Drunk. I know he's streaming right now, but he's holding it down over there. Right. Come hang out with me, man. I'd love to have you.
All right. So now that we got everybody on board and on point, obviously you already know who I am. I'm just pretty much the Rado Slapper, Shield Devastator, Black George Lucas, Last Jedi Hater, Rise of Skywalker, Terminator, Disney fake Lucasfilm regulator. I'm just about everything up in here. And now that we finally got people on board, I want to say hi to, like I said, Josh Putnam, Daytona Falls, the Susendo Old School and Films Gaming Reviews, 19K Fox popped in to say hi, and he's getting ready to get on a connected flight, Daytona Falls. Oh man, we getting all the good people up in here. Obi-Wan Vlog is still here. Stick Kenobi. Amber V has popped in, to support hubby, of course, and to hang out with the rest of us.
Of course.
Wookiee Supremacy. Let's see who else popped in. Fuel the Hatred. Okay. Well, like I said, everybody, this is the big daddy of them all. Episode 4, A New Hope, aka, as OG said, the original Star Wars that came in back in 1977 that basically blew the hinges off the door. And then after what we went through with the sequel trilogy, it was time to show some appreciation to all the films that had George Lucas's mark, his name on it. You understand? And we went roughshod with the prequels, and that's been a wonderful success. Just showing, everybody that the prequels are validated to be, just as wonderful as the OT is, if not more, especially with the sequel trilogy. But now, my beloved OG Star Wars told me that, yeah, let's keep this going. Because I originally wanted to just do the prequels. And she told me, no, just keep this going. Let's go through the original trilogy too. Shoot, it's about time we revisit these things that actually gave us all the inspiration, all the imagination, everything that really, cemented our lives in terms of this geek culture, especially myself, who I had to keep this undercover. So starting off with, we see the blockade runner, and shout out to those who loved Rogue One, because that was a perfect segue in how they used that mission to get the plans from the Death Star to get it to where they need to be in Princess Leia's hands. So the blockade runner comes in, sweeping down where after the crawl. And for the first time, you see a Star Destroyer just comes in from the underpass. It's like, it was massive. It was massive. And I at 6 years old, 7 years old, I'm watching this for the first time. And I was still too young to really absorb everything. But from what my mind's eye saw, was just, you just couldn't keep your eyes off of it, And then just going into how the thing was captured, and the stormtroopers, you see them for the very first time. The iconic, warriors for the Empire.
Do you remember being dropped into it? That was one of the things that when I was younger, I remember playing catch up, right? Because first it dropped into Star Wars. Prequels didn't exist at that time when I was a little girl, and they had already been out. I was shown these things infancy, right? Like these were a part of the very building blocks of my life, and they dropped you in and expected you to play catch up. And that was, I think, the best part of it, was sort of total immersion, right? This was the world you were working in. They didn't try to make it parallel to the world that we lived within, right? No, this was its own world. It was an escape. Yes. It was a genuine escape from the reality in which you existed, and you were there, and what it was what it was, and that's what it was. And you played, and I remember seeing Princess Leia for the first time with her little spinner, right? Do you remember the feeling you got when you saw Princess, this mysterious figure there in this beautiful flowing white gown, and she was clearly up to something, right? She's clearly in the middle of something terribly important. There's that urgency, that haste, and you're with her, and then she pulls it back, and there she is, and she's so lovely, and then she pulls out her gun and she fires back, right?
Yeah.
And you realize immediately, not only is this something lovely, someone beautiful, someone smart, someone who is handling business, but she's a fighter. You know that about her from the jump. I was hooked. I was hooked the moment I saw Princess Leia, this intriguing, mysterious character who was everything I could ever hope to be as a human being. Like, I was hooked from that moment on. I loved it so much.
OG, what about you? Your first impressions of Princess Leia when you first
Okay,
saw her?
so I came in, like, my memory of Star Wars when I started watching was Empire Strikes Back when it came out in theater. So before we went and watched it at the drive-ins, because, oh God, back then we had drive-ins.
Nice.
My family went and got the VHS. Yes, VHS. And so we got to watch Star Wars before Empire Strikes Back. We had to catch up as well. I had to play catch up. And seeing just the intense beginning of this ship shooting and following and pursuing the little ship there. And again, like what Mary Mayhem said, is that we get on board and then we see the beautiful woman that's taking charge. We also see the big black cladded figure walking in with all this, like you felt that fear, you felt your skin tingle because that felt so, you felt fearful for everybody on board. And then just taking Captain Antilles and lifting him up and choking him and taking command of the ship.
Yeah.
And at my age, that just put a lot of fear but intrigue in me. And then just to see again a woman taking charge, trying to protect her ship, and getting the data to R2D2 and stuff, there was understanding that everything was dire and everything was, it was just very intense, very, very intense. And that's how I felt with that. So.
Board's board. Now we're the men now.
Yeah.
So we was young kids, trying to feel our way through seeing Princess Leia for the first time. What was your impression?
So, I think you see her. She's the first main character. I think you
the first
actually
main, exactly.
The very first. And honestly, like that, you look at that opening scene, and you think like. Kind of what Mary said in that vein, like she can hold her own. She's got an idea. She's got a plan. Sets the plan in motion by the droids leaving.
Right.
Yeah, that was all great. And honestly, I like at least when I was a kid, I didn't really have any impressions of Princess Leia. She was the princess. Yeah, she kicked ass, but I wanted to be Han Solo, man. That's who really made the impact on me was Han Solo. Had his buddy Chewbacca. Everybody's got to have friends, right?
Yeah.
So even a scoundrel like Han Solo, but I remember growing up, I remember becoming older and, going back to watch Star Wars as an older, man, or young man.
Yes, sir.
My first impression of Princess Leia, I don't think there has ever been a woman sexier in, TV or movie cinema and cinema history.
Yeah. That's exactly my whole thinking.
And it's crazy too because and really I'm more impressed as the woman Carrie Fisher was, because they're Princess Leia and Carrie Fisher, at least Carrie Fisher back in the day when they first started filming this movie, two different people. If you go back and look at the interviews with her, she was very kind of shy, timid back then. Then she gets this role, and then in her older life, like she was very outspoken, very up, she said what she needed to say.
Yeah.
So all around great character, all around great woman, and stands the test of time.
Damn right.
I'm very happy to say that before Disney got rid of the Slave Leia stuff, because I don't believe they sell any of that merchandise, or they don't produce that merchandise anymore, the Slave Leia stuff, because it's too sexualized.
Doesn't mean you can't get it.
That's true.
Exactly.
Well, right before they did that, they printed Slave Leia pop figure, and I got it at retail price, and it's gone up. So, Princess Leia will always be the woman in cinema for me.
You there, boy? Oh, there we go. He froze for a second. Same thing with me. Princess Leia, first time I saw her, just giving the plans to R2D2 and then shooting down the guy before she got shot down. Then you see her getting, dragged out by the stormtroopers, but she's just walking with no fear, man. And that I saw right there behind her, obviously at 6 years old, I didn't think she was sexy. I just thought that, oh shoot, she's walking the walk and talking the talk. And then by the time she got to Darth Vader, it was like, damn, only you could be so bold. And, the Senate will not stand still for this, blah, 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 blah. And Darth Vader like, you're a rebel and a traitor and blah, blah, take her away. And she's like, whatever. And she just kept it moving. But now in the context of the prequels, you can't look at that scene the same way again, because Anakin is literally looking at his daughter that he doesn't even know. And just the fact that he couldn't even sense it through her because he was wallowing in his anger and his misery, just basically was like, okay, well, you can go about your business. But knowing how she is, she mirrors her mother Padme completely.
Yes.
Completely. But she gave the plans to R2D2. Now they're on Tatooine, not fake ass Jakku and not fake ass any other desert planet. Disney sequel trilogy nutcases came up with. No, we had the original desert planet Tatooine, and of course the banter between C-3PO and R2-D2 was on full display, and they made you fall in love with the droids because they had more personality than anybody else.
Right.
And Mary, starting with you, your impressions of C-3PO and R2-D2 when you first saw them. Was they a comic legend right off the bat, or did it really grew on?
Well, it was the wonderful dynamic between the two of them. I think that made it work so well. Was this spunky little robot? I love R2 till the day I die. R2 is my fuck.
Yeah.
Fuck BB-8. If I come in his little soccer ball head, I hate that thing so much.
Yes.
I hate him. He's a cuteness usurper, and I would like very much to punt him right over the fence.
Mm-hmm.
So annoying. You see this wonderful dynamic between these two characters, this spunky little droid who immediately you grasp the personality of, right?
Yes.
You immediately know that it seems impossible, but this little robot is full of courage. This little robot is fearless and will do what it is that he must do. And then you got this sort of straight man, as it were, of 3PO playing off of him and being like, "Look, I'm not going in there." And you're just like, there, you gotta go. And so you have them sort of reliant on one another in order to get the job done. And it's really a stroke of mastery on George Lucas's part to put the droids together and to give them such opposing personalities, because it gives you the full dynamic when you're experiencing, because you're meeting everything through their eyes, right?
That's true.
This whole world is being opened up to you. This whole galaxy is being opened up to you through the eyes of these two robots. And so to put them on such opposite ends of the spectrum, to use one that won't shut up, and then another one that can't speak at all, but still completely conveys what he's thinking through little beeps and boops.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, from time to time, 3PO is sort of doing the translating of what it is that R2 is saying when you can't quite grasp it, but you understand his intent, right?
Right.
It was such a brilliant stroke to introduce us to the world, to the galaxy through these two. You get a sense of the trepidation that you should have on Tatooine, because this is a terrible place to be through 3PO, and R2 is spunky for all he is, gets his butt kicked a couple times, and so you get this sort of world feel through their eyes that works so beautifully, and it gives you the polar opposite ends, and I just loved it. I loved that method of introducing us to everything through them. It was perfect. It really was.
And speaking of the dangers that C-3PO was facing, OG Star Wars, the Jawas, when we first found them, and they, because they caught poor R2 out there, shot him, and took him up there, and and they caught C-3PO, and now they riding in their little, I don't even know what was that called.
Sorry, about the Sandcrawler?
Yeah, whatever the I guess the thing they was riding in, and they had all the droids.
Yeah, the Sandcrawler.
The Sandcrawler. Oh, that's what it was called. Okay.
Mining, machine before Tatooine became a sound planet. So it was a mining vehicle.
Okay. They're so cute with their little and they're just walking around, even though it was little people in the costumes, but you were so engrossed in the fact that these were aliens from another world, where I thought they was I thought they was real menacing, but they really wasn't. They was but just junk dealers, and they just came in there and saw the droid, and he was lost, and hey, come on and sell them for parts. But by the time they did all of that and finally got them over to where they needed to be at the homestead, the Lars homestead, and now finally the hero's journey really begins. And then finally we see the man, the myth, and the legend. As a young buck, Luke Skywalker come out, the music of John Williams just, you know what I'm saying? Even in his first appearance, the music of John Williams just soared, just showed you that this is the main character. This is the main person whose journey you're supposed to follow. And Ords, I wanted to start off with you, the first impressions, especially as he's dealing with his Uncle Owen. And you can see the little bits and pieces of his personality when he finally get the droids and he's bringing them in. And I mean, just your first impressions from that.
Well, a little. I kind of want to touch a little bit on the droids, with R2 and C-3PO. It's weird because as a kid, you have an idea how the world looks around you, and then you get this thing that you've never seen before in Star Wars.
Yeah.
And at first, the droids seem very out of place. At first, on the planet on Tatooine, because you see a desert, you've seen it on TV, you either visited the desert, seen it on TV, whatever, you have an idea, and to see these things that you've never seen before exist, was out of place. And then the movie begins. As the movie begins with Luke Skywalker, everything kind of starts to make sense. You're like, oh my gosh, these are fleshed out, legit characters that have texture to them. And one thing that I think that they did very fluidly throughout the original movies was, like, I think Mary, you mentioned it, with the way that R2 communicates, even Chewbacca, it's almost you can understand, you know what I mean, the way the noises go, the way it's all put up, the way the scene's set up, it's like you can hear what R2 and even Chewbacca are affectionately saying, just because of how fluid they made this, the writing was, in the movie with the characters and how fleshed out these characters were. So right off the bat, you have these characters that you can relate to, and now you get Luke Skywalker. Now that is a character I think people really relate to. I mean, as a kid, I'm thinking, oh, look at this guy. He's a dorky little kid like me, like. Oh, he gets told what to do too. How many times, have you been in that situation where you're like, well, I wanted to go skateboard with my friends. Well, no, you need to do your chores first. Like, oh my gosh, I can so relate to that. Like, and then walking away all pissed off because your parents said you had to do this instead of doing this. And I see myself in that sense of, like, the dreams. He has big dreams. He has big aspirations. Yep. He's tied down. As a kid, you don't want to be tied down. You want to be free, man. Yeah. So it was just such a relatable character at that moment. Like, it took me that whole time on Tatooine to really feel comfortable with the character and go, this is the guy that I've attached to now. And then comes the Han Solo.
Okay, yep, we're gonna get to that.
But
in a second.
No, Luke is the hero's journey.
That's true.
Literally.
The Guilt Man, $4.99 super chat. He says this panel is great. Damn right it is. I always have a knack of getting great people on here. Sending lots of love. I think one of the best things about the original trilogy is the music. That is a absolute bona fide fact right there.
It's a whole package. It's the whole package.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Trencher 1375 with the $100. Oh, the Knox super chat. God damn, my man doing this thing. God bless you, sir.
I'm not sure what kind of currency that is in but I imagine it's a yellow one, so it's probably gonna be closer to like $10.
You know what? It's whatever. It just looks good on the screen. The OT is a love. He says the OT is a love letter to the old adventure pulp serials. They had the same attitude that the pulpy attitude is what the new movie lacks. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Luke goes.
Luke. The thing about Luke Skywalker is that I remember being annoyed by him when I was young. When I was young, because I really felt like a little pissant. Like the first half of the movie, he's just, I'm gonna go to Taji Station.
But those are classic lines that you can say with a smile on your face, Mary.
Right. And I think they intended that. They intended that.
Yes, they did. Yeah. But that was why he was my favorite character. So when I got a little older, like 10 or so years old, and I started to really be able to look past the moment to moment and begin to understand what the hell an arc even was. I always knew I was happy at the end of the movie, but I began to understand that what he'd gone through was a growth cycle. Right. That he had started off as this whiny, dreamy little kid on this backwater planet who wanted, for lack of a better term, he was like a Disney princess. I want more, he just wanted to get out of there so bad. And at the end of the day, though, he knew what his responsibilities were, and he was willing to. He had a lot of integrity, so he wasn't going to abandon his uncle and his aunt when he knew that was where he was needed either. I can't. I've got to go home. I'm in trouble. I've got to, I've got to help with the harvest and all that stuff. He still had integrity, right? It was just shown in a different sort of way, even though it was that he wanted to leave, that he was a dreamer. He still had that integrity and that loyalty to his family, right?
That's true.
And compassion even for Obi-Wan. I can take you as far as Anchorhead. I can't go with you because I've got these responsibilities, but I can take you as far as Anchorhead. So he always had these sort of wonderful characteristics about him that you just kind of had to see past the surface value of, right? And then as his situation grows worse and he lost everyone in his whole world in one fell swoop, the Empire comes in and burns his only family that he knows of.
I know. And back in the 70s though, that they literally showed the smothering, the skeletons and everything. And the look on Luke's eyes was like he was just determined to now, like, I gotta step it up to the next level, which leads everything up to Obi-Wan. And OG Star Wars, I want you to lead this one knowing that, Obi-Wan Kenobi has seen it all and done it all. After the prequel, now that we had the prequels to flesh out his character even more, it gives more gravitas to seeing him in episode 4 now, being the hermit, knowing that Yoda sent him to bring Luke to the Lars, to the raids, but watch over him. And now when it came finally time for R2-D2 to bring the plans from Princess Leia, and then she gave the little speech, which is everything in that movie is iconic at this point.
Exactly.
So so
the
now,
scene that isn't.
Yeah, so now, taking us through Obi-Wan's thinking, knowing what he knows, OG, take us through his thinking in terms of how he's looking at Luke.
Okay, so this is very interesting because I decided what my next lore book is going to be about, and it's going to be the Life and Legends of Obi-Wan, which is a Legends book, and that segues between Empire Strikes Back and a Return of the Jedi, but it also goes back into Obi-Wan as an apprentice, and all the way into where Luke finds the treasure chest of like the journal that he left him and all that, and he also leaves information in there to Luke about how to make a lightsaber, how to train and all this. And so going into Obi-Wan's mission that we see in A New Hope, and all the way from his mission when he was granted it when in Revenge of the Sith,
right?
He has this mission, and he wasn't really foreseen or seen by Owens very well, because Owen knew what happened to, or seen what happened to Anakin and seen the struggle, and he had fear for Luke about following in his father's footsteps. And so he basically, Obi-Wan's mission was there to help protect him and eventually train him. That was his mission. And how I see that now, even though maybe I didn't know it back then, is that, Obi-Wan still needed to train. He still needed to train himself and still maintain himself as a Jedi. Right. And so that goes into the Kenobi book, which explains it a lot more. So I'm putting a lot of legends in here, telling you guys where to find that information at. Legends, Life, and Legend of Obi-Wan, 2 novels to look into. But going back to the OT, when we see Luke going out looking for the droids, when he gets out in his speeder and looks for the droids, and mind you, I love R2-D2. He's such a badass character droid. And when you look at them too, George intended R2 and C-3PO to be the ones basically sharing the story.
Right.
That's why they are in every single one of the stories. That's why. And then when you get into Legends, Leia gets C-3PO because she's a diplomat. Luke gets R2 because he has his stealth X-wing, and he needs him. And so when we see Luke knocked out by the Tusken Raiders, Obi-Wan always senses him and always is there to rescue him, and that's even in Legends. He's there to protect him, and then he's there to know when it's time to start training him. So once R2 comes, and mind you, people say, well, he didn't know who R2 was, even though he owned an astromech droid. If you look into the prequels, he was never into droids. He never was connected to them like Anakin was. Like when he lost his droid, he's like, oh, there goes another one. And basically, and so to me, looking at the prequels when they came out, and his response to R2 when he said, I didn't ever own a droid, that kind of played back to that. So when you
Right.
look at George's brilliance, he makes sure he tries to cover. Yeah, there is some stuff that was slipped that he like grazed over, but he makes sure that his continuity is well between the movies. And that's one thing that I love about Star Wars is the continuity. And so Luke then realizes it's time to train.
Right.
It's time to put this guy on him on his hero's journey. And that hero's journey starts with his father's lightsaber. When he hands him his father's lightsaber, tells him about the Clone Wars, another nod, and then tells him that, you know, you need to train as a Jedi. Then you see all the motions of the hero's journey coming in as like refusing the call at first because he's listening to his Uncle Owen in his head because his uncle wants him to stay. And finally, he's like, okay, well, I need to be responsible. I'm going to use my uncle as an excuse.
Right.
But we know for a fact that that's not his path, because when we see the binary sunset, and I wish you have that clip to show, the binary sunset is where we know that he is just like his father as well, that he knows that he has greater purpose.
That's right. That's right. Because Anakin, well, it was said in episode 1 that Anakin said, has anybody seen all the stars or
all
something to
worlds,
that? Yeah, all the worlds, and Qui-Gon was like, not likely. He said, I want to be the first one to see. He was already an adventurer in his heart, even at 9 years old. So Luke is following his father's footsteps without even realizing it. And then now we get to the part where, obviously the Empire is catching up to them, and he tells Obi-Wan that, listen, there's nothing for me here. My uncle and my aunt is dead. I got nothing, here to keep me, so I want to come with you and be a Jedi like my father. He told him the thing, how did my father die? And just Obi-Wan's look, like, this is and it was not even intentional because there was no prequels, there was no Clone Wars. The way that Obi-Wan kind of like breathed and looked was just literally a perfect coincidence to a man who already knew the truth. You understand what I'm saying? And when episode 4 came out, there was no context to him being Anakin, Skywalker and anything. It was just like, oh shit, I actually got to say something. All right. Well, he was a young pupil of mine until he turned to evil, and the whole thing was just perfect. So now Luke in his head thinking that Darth Vader is the dude that killed his father. That's fucked up. But it is what it was. So he said, I'm going to learn to be a Jedi like him. Not knowing the brilliance and how, and like I said, the prequels put everything into context in terms of the OT. So every dialogue, every look, every scene has more gravitas now. Because you're following the story of Anakin Skywalker, now switching it into the lens of his son.
And I think,
now,
I'll just say real quick. I think that's what people miss on the prequels is the people who hated on it. They're missing the fact that we got more lore that was in continuity with it for the most part. We got more lore. All we had was 3 movies and some comic books. That was it.
Yeah,
and they opened it up. The prequels opened it up. But sorry, anyway.
Do you notice that the New Hope started with Luke saying, "I want to be a Jedi like my father," and then it ends with, "I am a Jedi like my father before me."
That's right. Oh, we got enough time. We're gonna hit Return of the Jedi pretty soon. Mary, well, now that they got everybody up and running, they got the droids, they got Obi-Wan. Now they heading over to Mos Eisley, the greatest the scum of villainy,
hive of scum and villainy,
of scum and villainy. And there we meet the greatest, one of the greatest scenes in all of the Star Wars movies. For me, the cantina scene where we saw aliens from different races and different cultures and this, that, whatever. Everybody having a drink. Everybody's showing a good time. They even got a little jazz.
Y'all. That was the kind of diversity that worked, right?
Exactly.
And that was the scene that really opened up the Star Wars universe to what it could be. It was the first introduction to the rest of the galaxy without actually having to travel to each planet. It was, you know what I mean?
Of course you have all of these different, this is like, this is a spaceport or whatever. Like, this is where people are going to, this is like the only place on Tatooine where people actually go, right? The rest of it is just a shithole.
Yeah.
And this is a galactic kind of world. This is a galaxy we're working within here, right? The worlds are
true.
connected. So of course there are a bunch of different types of aliens running around, and we know right up the bat what we're stepping into. He tells us we're going into, you'll never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. So you know when you're stepping in that you're going into a rough place, right? This is like walking into a bar that is on the outskirts of a small town out there where the motorcycle gangs all hang out.
I was
right?
saying, we got
right.
a bar like that in my town. It's called Two Wheel Inn. Don't go there.
Holy shit.
You know when you're walking in there, you know what you're walking into, that this place is going to be rough, right?
Yeah.
So you've got your little Luke Skywalker who's, I'm ready for anything.
Yep, and then as soon as he walks in there, and everybody giving him the look like, what the
I think
fuck is this boy with? Yeah.
I think the first mistake Luke made was telling that guy sorry, where he's like, I don't like you. He's like, well, I'm sorry. You don't say sorry to these guys. That's your first mistake, Luke.
The first thing that would eat you alive.
You hit him in the face and go about your business. You got to set a precedence.
And then this homie was sitting up here like egging him on, like, yeah. We gonna get your ass.
But then who handled business? Like
Obi-Wan Kenobi,
yeah.
yeah. He said, "Look, hey man, calm your ass down, man. It's all good. Everything's all right." And he looked at him like, "What's this old man talking to me like that?"
I mean, to be drink, man. And he's like, Obi-Wan handles it like a pro, right? He's like, let's all take this down a notch. And then when it doesn't work, he's like, fine, and he cuts his arm off.
He couldn't even get that gun out fast enough.
And to you and McGregor, you look at the consistency of that character. It's always, there's no middle ground for Obi-Wan. It's either I'm going to do it the right way or it's got to be done the wrong way.
There's no middle ground. There's only a high ground.
Ooh, good call. Good call.
I like that. But
Yeah.
like you even like referred to like in the prequels, like where he's casually when they're like in the opening, I think was it that? No, it was Attack of the Clones.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning of that movie where they're trying to find the changeling, and Obi-Wan just kind of takes his time and he does his thing, and then it literally 0 to 60, like with the cutting off the hand.
That's right. Same thing he did in The New Hope.
You got it.
Yep.
So
and
it's
then
0 to 60.
And then everybody is just looking around like, God damn, man, we just only came here to get a drink. Hopefully, guy got his hand cut off. And
I'm
then
going to
Chewbacca
point
was.
out something that that people don't realize is that when you get into Star Wars and you really get into Legends and stuff, and then you go back and review these movies, when you review the cantina scene after that incident where Obi-Wan shows his badassery, because he's still trained when he was in exile, so we know that's why he was able to respond like he did. But what I'm getting at is that people still knew the Jedi. They still knew, they still had respect for the Jedi. That's why after what he did, there was like, okay, well, we won't, we have a Jedi here, or they seen the lightsaber and they just went and minded their own business because it was taken care of and everybody respected them. That's how I see that when you get into Legends and when I see that scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, I want to know the story of the character, the guy who's got the pipe, where he's just like, he looks over his shoulder, he's like, right back to it, man. Like that, I want to know that guy's story because he's a badass. You know what I mean? Like,
And the other two space guys that was just chilling, they're humans, and they up there doing their little business. They got their little drink on. They looking around like, okay, it ain't got nothing to do with me, so I'm gonna keep it moving. And then
and again, to more of your point,
the band goes right back to it. Like,
and then the iconic scene of all time. Man.
I got a question real quick. I don't mean to interrupt. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry, but I got a question. Have you read? Is it? I think it's a book. From a certain point of view.
No, not yet. Is that is it a certain point of view? Isn't that Disney?
I think so, but it's actually pretty good. So it basically fills in some gaps. Like there's actually like the short stories book where it's like I think 25 different stories. Where it's like from a different point of view from another character within those scenes. They even do like I think one on the Jawas when they've got the sand crawler, like that whole thing. But it's actually pretty good.
Okay.
I would recommend at least checking it out because I think you would appreciate some of that stuff in there.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I don't have a problem with Disney stuff. Like, I will give credit where credit's due. Like,
Yeah.
Rogue One, I don't think it's too bad, but I prefer Dark Forces as a segue into A New Hope, because that's the classic. We have the classic Kyle Katarn and all them going into that, and that's what they piggybacked off of Dark Forces. So I much prefer that over Rogue One. But it was a better movie of Disney's Star Wars, basically.
Right on.
So I give them credit. So like with something like that, like if there's a novel, I'm like, okay, it doesn't really mess with the movies or even pull in Legends characters and stuff and ruin them, then it might be an interesting read. So again, I try, even though I am stuck in George Lucas era of Star Wars Legends and all that, I still will give credit where credit's due.
Okay,
so.
Yeah, I just had to ask. Sorry. I mean,
well,
yeah,
you see,
fine.
now I'm learning something right now. I've never read that book, so I guess I'm gonna have to read it and try to compare and contrast, like, you know, my girl does, in terms of, because I like Rogue One. I really like Rogue One.
Me too.
That movie did it for me. So I guess
look into Dark Forces. That's
Forces,
where the original part of that all comes from. Yeah.
Okay, good. Now we finally get to the man, the myth, the legend. Finally, the rogue, the scoundrel, the smuggler. Mary Mayhem, I want you to start me off with him. How smooth and debonair, and just like cold blood. He was cold blooded.
Oh, he was so smooth first. Do you remember those legs just propped up on the table, like owned the joint?
I can't even.
Owned this joint, right?
He literally did. He literally did. He said, "I'm Han Solo."
Ownership, confidence, all that. Sorry, I had to add into that.
So smooth. Even as a little girl, back before the puberty had hit, before I knew what the feels were, I caught the feels. I was just sitting there going,
I can't even right now.
The big JJ.
And I'm going to add to that as well. So I'm going to go back to Leia, to Han. So when I first seen Leia, you know what? It wasn't like I'm like, oh, she's our first female character ever as a protagonist. She reminded me of my grandmother and the women in my family who were the matriarch, who were strong and able and stood up when they needed to, were kind and gentle when they needed to. So when I looked at Han Solo, that right there was like, it reminded me of some of the men in my family as a little girl, on how confident they were, how sure they were, how I felt secure around them. And then also to the handsomeness about him as well. So
yeah. It's so he's doing his thing, right? He's just doing his thing. He's chilling out. He owns this joint, right? Like he's his legs all propped. This is the man, and everybody knows it, right? Because it takes someone special to suddenly grapple your attention away from the fact that Obi-Wan Kenobi just cut an arm off, right? Like it takes something magnetic to pull you away from that. And that's exactly what we got in Han Solo, this entire encounter. Imagine going from awestruck moment to awestruck moment, where one moment you have this kid who's like, I'm ready for anything, and then he gets into it, and you got the arm cut off, and then you're
best
like,
Luke impression ever.
Oh, right?
Just saying.
Luke is my man, though. He was my first love, and I adore him. I understood how his character was, because he's Han and Luke and Leia. Han is like 10 years older than them.
He was my favorite. He was my favorite growing up until the prequels came along, and then it switched over to Obi-Wan Kenobi. But growing up with the original trilogy, Luke was my favorite, and that was for a reason. That was because of his arc, because of his growth.
Yeah.
So much happened with him, but it takes something genuinely awe-inspiring to grapple you away from the moment that we just had, where you got this shit show go down, and then everybody's like, oh, okay, back to business, everybody. And then you pan over, and there he is with his legs up on the table, and you see Greedo come in, and you see this exchange between the two, and you suddenly know you are dealing with an absolute badass, and not Han shot first. Han shot, period. Yeah. Han was the only one who shot in that original movie. It was all him. Got that pew, and he's dead, and Greedo's dead. Yeah. And then just to play it off even more cool, he tosses the coin and sorry about the mess, right? Like, and that's just all there is to it. And you have
every day at work.
Yeah, another day at work.
I'm getting a little excited listening to you talk about it.
Me too, man. I'm getting me all of my feels. And like, yeah. And I'm as straight as an arrow, man.
Right.
I'm just go on.
Well, what could you do? What could you do? Even guys caught the feels for him because at the end of the day, someone who could drag you away from the scene that you had just seen and suck you into that moment with him where all of a sudden you would follow this man anywhere in whatever hunk of junk he flew.
That's right.
Clearly,
That's in his chunk of junk.
right?
I mean,
You would go anywhere.
I'm okay. I'd be okay with it.
I did, I would say I watch, but I'd be too ashamed. It's just,
Respect yourself, Abu.
I know. I'm a bad boy at heart, but yeah, I mean, that's the only thing that I disagree with George Lucas, and really the only thing in terms of the special edition that he didn't make Han shoot first. I mean, I understand what his reasoning was and what have you, but it's just something that's so iconic, the way he did it and the way he just shot Greedo, because Greedo running off his mouth. I'm like, it's like, all right, man, I want to hear your nonsense, all right? Well, I'm getting ready to go. So you can wrap this up and, I'm taking you to Jabba. Well, you're not doing that today, homie, so I don't know what to tell you.
Not even tomorrow.
Not even tomorrow. And you just blasting him. And then he said, you know what? Damn, I kind of left a mess. You know what? Here, take a couple of dollars, bury his ass. Just pray to the Greedo god or whatever. just keep it moving. And that was it. And then he get to the Millennium Falcon, him and Chewie, just seeing that ship for the first time. And I didn't even realize that the Millennium Falcon was just going to be an iconic ship in and of itself. I mean, when I first saw it, it was a ship. It was in the back, and we didn't know how and what the context was going to be as he was flying it. But by the time he got to it, and then, the stormtroopers caught up to them, and they got in there, and they blasted off, and just between John Williams' music and just the chase before they hit hyperspace for the first time, and then that just blew my mind away. And just now that we got all the characters up and running, now we turn to the bad guys, all the way on the Death Star, and of course, in the context of the prequels, we're looking at the Death Star that was not built by anybody, that was not created by anybody, but the Geonosians. So these insects were the ones that basically created the Death Star, that created the plans. All they did was just built it to the specifications that they had from Count Dooku to give it to Darth Sidious. And now here, all the high officers, the Moffs, and all the other dudes coming in here, ranting and raving about the plans is gone and blah, blah, and what the fuck are we gonna do? And then Grand Moff talking. That, if you're gonna have somebody as badass as Darth Vader, George Lucas came up with the perfect foil for him to be just as badass as him, because you knew Darth Vader was the villain coming out of the gate, but knowing that the Grand Moff Tarkin was above Vader just gave it that human look in terms of villainy that I guess he wanted to show in Peter Cushing, and Peter Cushing knocked it.
It makes you wonder what
that the Empire was very sure of themselves, and compared to the Disney trilogy, it showed that they were basically on top of their game.
Yeah.
Mm. And they didn't get there from nowhere. And he's such a Bond villain. And he's like, he comes in there all smooth and absolutely foul at the same time. And he's absolute. What's the word I'm looking for here? He's merciless. He's completely merciless.
Yes, he is.
But calm and collected. That's genuinely terrifying. As terrifying as Vader is, with his powers and his ability and his presence is imposing, of course, Tarkin comes in and he's completely calm, completely collected. He doesn't need to show brute physical force.
Right.
With the flick of his wrist, with the issuance of an order, an entire planet, you may fire when ready. It's so incredibly unnerving, unsettling to see this man and Princess Leia, who you already know is a badass. You've already grasped that about her. She walks in there with such defiance and such fire in her, and he's just standing there, and he doesn't give two shits.
Even when she said,
yeah,
"See, I can smell your foul stench when I was brought on board."
Well, it just makes you wonder if this guy sits above Vader. What kind of things has this guy done to people, or to?
He didn't even blink, or He didn't
Cool,
even
calm,
blink
and
when
collected like a
homie
predator.
running off at his mouth. Yes, your sorceress ways, Lord Vader. You're the pattern and take the plans. And he's up there choking to death. Everybody else is just sitting up there shook to death. Grandma Tarkin is just like,
Release him.
yeah, Vader, release him. As you wish.
He's so incredibly unnerving and unsettling because you know that there's nothing you can do to bargain with this man. There's nothing you have that he won't get from you and still get everything he wants. He will take everything and give you nothing. He is genuinely scary. And that's an impressive feat when you stick the guy next to frickin' Vader. And you have a sort of clash of titans between Princess Leia and Grand Moff Tarkin, where they spar with one another verbally, and he still doesn't give a shit. Destroys her planet before her eyes. Everything, everyone she's ever known and ever loved is gone, and he did it without a freaking pause, without a second guess, because he has ultimate power and no one can stop him, and there's nothing you can do. And he feels nothing. This guy's a sociopath. He feels nothing. Absolutely nothing.
They even fleshed out his personality even more in the Clone Wars. He was, when he was a captain, he just had a cold, calculating look at how the military, should handle any and everybody that's civilian. And it just carried over. Even in the book Tarkin by James Luceno, that's a great book. He really delved into the mind of this man. And like I said, he was just a regular Joe, just like everybody else. But he had a vision, and he had the determination to carry that vision through. And I was just sitting up here like really in awe of how James Luceno just, described the man, behind everybody else. But even though he had a fear of Vader to a certain extent, because at any point or any time, he's only had a certain amount of control over Vader just based off of Darth Sidious orders to have Vader just piggyback off of him. But but Darth Sidious made it very clear to Tarkin, listen, don't push him. he's under your command, but do not push him, because he is not above to making sure that he will take control of you, and there will be nothing I can do about that. So he had it in his mind. So he was very calculating to be friends with Vader instead of knowing that Vader was told to follow Tarkin. No, he made a concerted effort to say, you know what, my friend, we could do great things together. I know we could do X, Y, and Z. And, Anakin, Darth Vader was sitting up here like, all right, well, whatever, my master wants, I'm going to handle it. So, and that was where it was. I loved it.
Let me ask you this real quick, and this might be for you, OG, but do you think at some point the Emperor and Tarkin had conversation about Vader, and Tarkin knows essentially everything about Vader with the suit and how the suit is essentially made to kind of keep him, it's like his leash essentially. Vader being in a leash with a suit. Right. Do you think that Tarkin and the Emperor had conversations about Vader?
Tarkin had sneaking suspicions about who Vader was, and they were, I believe, confirmed at one point. But I don't think it was because the Emperor specifically engaged him in that type of stuff. It's just Tarkin was brilliant, and he could deduce things.
Well, because I know that like Vader would go off on his own little adventures. At least I think in the new canon stuff with the comic books, the Vader run, like he didn't like the Emperor. He was not a huge fan of the Emperor, but he did it just because of all the circumstances and stuff like that. So maybe Tarkin was kind of leery to that, like kind of.
Woo, that's loud.
Yes, it is.
I know. Who got in trouble?
That's not me.
Oh, okay. I don't want to go to jail yet.
I didn't do it this time. All right.
Believe it or not, I'm the big girl.
So with Tarkin, with Tarkin, he always stayed above everything. He was a person who knew everything. He was basically I wouldn't say understudy, but basically he was the man for Sidious. Also, Vader was as well. So this is the brilliance of Palpatine or Sidious, is that he made sure everybody that he placed in front of him to do his biddings had some sort of control, whether it's loud.
That's me. Yeah, that's me.
you.
That's me. Yeah, they looking for me right now, because after we burnt everything down in Dark Council last Tuesday.
Yeah, I missed it. Sorry
About that, everybody.
Yeah, so Palpatine was brilliant with that. And then when you go into Legends, you look at who his hands were, like Mara Jade, it shows how much he had control of everybody to do his bidding. And so even if they didn't know of each other, they knew something about each other. That's how I seen that, because even Mara Jade had to deal with Vader at one point. Tarkin, of course, because he was the man in command, like of the Death Stars, the first Death Star and stuff. And so, so he did know some things about Vader, and but I think also too there was things that he wasn't privy to because he wasn't allowed to by Sidious. That's how I
Sidious played it really close to the chest. He never put all his eggs in one basket.
Yeah,
he was always very, very careful about what knowledge he made available and to whom he made it available. So he was always really careful to never put too much knowledge in one person.
So it doesn't fall apart.
So would you say Tarkin he has a very high intuition about?
Tarkin knew who he was, not because of any specific like relaying of that information so much as just Tarkin was brilliant and had engaged with Anakin. He knew who Anakin Skywalker was. He'd had to deal with him on a regular basis. And so then Vader comes along and a lot of the mannerisms are the same. And this is just a lot of the hot-headedness is the same. And so he recognizes him essentially is what happens. So
makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Well, but with that, after he destroyed, the Alderaan, and now everybody is coming out of hyperspace, and they finally get caught by the tractor beam. Now everybody is in the Death Star, and then when they got Chewie and just love the banter between Han Solo and Luke. I mean, they just was like at odds with one another at almost every given turn. But Han was just going through it like, listen, man, I got caught out there, whatever. But when he mentioned the princess and his money, and it's like, princess, money? Oh, well, I don't want to do anything. I ain't in for your revolution. It's like,
that shows that Luke knew what he was talking about. Even though he was still naive and stuff, he knew how to play his cards as well.
Right.
So, well, he talked about the princess at first, and Han couldn't have cared less, right?
Yeah,
Han
exactly.
was like, well, better her than me, right?
Savage, man.
Then Luke throws in, he's like, she's rich.
And Chewie said, that's why he said, yo, man, that's money involved, man. Let's do it.
We need to get our asses out of trouble.
Han could not have cared less about some fluffy princess, right? Like that was not on his agenda. Han was about Han. He was a smuggler through and through. That was one of the things that ticked me off about the Han Solo movie or whatever. Ranger Solo. That ticked me off about it.
Yeah, baby.
It detracts from the arc that we see him have. Han was a smuggler, a scoundrel, a bad boy, okay, who was capable of redemption. He wasn't a wounded soul who'd gone through a rough time. Now, it's a dick. He was a dick who could not have cared less whether or not Princess Leia lived or died.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
He had to find a way to be redeemed. He had to discover something that he cared for, right? And so that was one of the appealing parts about Han Solo's growth, because when you see him there and he's getting boarded onto, then he's like, we'll just hide down here. He's like, I want to get out of here. I don't want to do this. This is not what I signed up for. And this isn't what he wants to do, right? He was just supposed to ship these guys over to Alderaan. And
I know, right? It was supposed to be a simple, shop and drop.
Exactly. He didn't want to be involved. And so, but because of his nature of, money is involved now, she's rich. And so now he gets to, then you have the sort of thing that anchors him in, that pulls him in, that draws him in.
Right.
And now he's hooked, and now he's in for the ride. He's in for the experience and the things that will take him through his journey and take him to the end, where ultimately he becomes a redeeming, he's redeemed, and his quality shines through, right? Because it's buried really deep when we first meet him, and I don't think he's aware of it.
That's true. But when he finally finds the princess and they go, fight off the stormtrooper and then he fall into the chute, they arguing right off the bat, polar opposites. Just sitting up here like, I'm not taking the orders from you, and then they get to the trash compactor. What a wonderful smell you discovered.
Like
And
they were already married,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they just went at it, and it's like, when they finally got out
When he fell in love.
the trash compactor, and she was like, I don't
Quite
care.
a girl you've got there.
Yeah, it was like, I don't care who you are or who you came from, but from now on, you do as I tell you, okay?
Either I'm gonna kill her or I'm beginning to like her.
Yeah, I know. Poor Luke was like, huh? I was the one that wanted to rescue her. What the fuck?
Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?
Oh my God, just dissed him hard. And he did like this, huh? He pulled off the mask.
I'm Luke Skywalker, and I'm here to rescue you.
And she was like, huh? I'm here with Ben Kenobi. Ben Kenobi? That's what she just said.
He runs right past him. Screw this short little fluffy haired little boy. The door's open. That's the only thing I need you for. Right? The rest of this I've got. You got the door open. I'm good. Give me the gun. Get out of my way.
Tarkin said, no, the Darth Vader said, he is here. Obi-Wan Kenobi. What makes you so sure? A tremor in the Force. When last I felt it was in the presence of my old master. He said, if you're right, he shouldn't be allowed to escape. Escape is not his plan. He said, I have to face him alone.
That was powerful.
That right there, man. That right there.
Yes.
Oh, dude, it's about to pop off.
It's about to pop off heavy.
And then what's really about that? It was when you take that and you set it aside from the context of the prequels, because I remember seeing this as a kid when there was no prequels context, right? You don't have all this backstory. Nevertheless, even without that in place, you feel the weight of this relationship. You know it's back there. It's not just been alluded to. It's been laid out for you. These guys have a relationship, and this means something.
Yeah.
And even though you haven't seen it, you still grasp the weight of it. You understand that this fight that's going down, I must face him alone. It conveys to you the impact that these two people have had on one another's lives, and how when they come together in this moment, it's do or die. That no, they're not both going to walk away from this.
That's
and
true.
You understood it, and the weight and the gravitas of it all lays on you just as thick as humanly possible. And that's astounding to me, considering how little time we've spent with these people.
That's true. That's true.
It truly shared the Force bond between, even though we didn't have that yet, between a master and apprentice. It truly gave us a glimpse to the Force, how it works, how it connects people who are Force sensitives. And I think that was a pivotal moment for the movies and people to really grasp on with Star Wars. And that set the foundation for the Force.
Yes.
See, and with the latest Disney movie, it's like they could have totally learned from this. How much was fit into that first movie, A New Hope, but still felt right and not rushed, not compact. It was like Mary, you got me thinking about this all differently now. Like for real though, like
that's an effect. That's that effect she has on everybody.
So it's like you're right. Putting yourself in that moment when that relationship between Vader and Obi-Wan is like solidified just in the words that are used and how they're used. Like, you're right. Looking back at it, you knew there was this tension of years and years, and you felt that tension, but where did that tension come from? You don't know, but it's still there.
It's phenomenal. And
like with the droids, like with the droids, you understand what's going on, and it doesn't feel rushed. It doesn't feel forced. It just feels fluid and natural.
Yeah.
And then magic.
I'm going to go with this, you guys. So like, if you guys are really into the magic or the mythos of the OT and of the OT, this book right here basically explains not only Luke Skywalker's hero's journey, but also it also gives Leia's hero's journey and Han's hero's journey. So it's called Star Wars: The Magic of Myth right here. And it's a great book to read about how George Lucas's brilliance between the characters in the OT. And even explains a lot about Vader and his arc as well.
I was so weird. I must have somehow like subliminally seen you hold the book up, and because I was just about to say that was the magic of what George Lucas could do, was this amazing chemistry and the history that even though you hadn't heard it all, you still understood it.
Yeah.
And so I guess I must have I must have seen you hold that, because the word magic was what was floating around in my head because it was so magical.
I've seen her do it on one of her coffee chat streams way back.
It really is. It is a magical experience. It's every bit as magical as any Disney movie I ever watched, right? Because you are so sucked into this entire environment and you are with it for every single moment. You are enraptured and engaged from moment to moment. How is it that a movie can do such an amazing job of taking you from moment to moment and you being so invested from each scene to the next, as though you know these people, you care for these people, you want so much for this to work out for them because you care for them, you're invested in them immediately from the jump. These are your people and you just want them to be safe, you just want them to succeed, and every moment that tension builds and it grows more and more, and somehow each scene is heightened by the previous ones before but not diminished by them, because it just gets better and better each minute. It's why Star Wars was a phenomenon. It's why it stays with us, because it's so potent. It's still so potent even today.
Even today.
Even in the PT, so I'm going to go into prequel trilogies a little bit, because the OT set such a mythical foundation that we probably don't see it used in films anymore, not even in its own films now coined under Disney. But when you look at the prequel trilogy, they go off that the mythos to where we see just one arc evolve, and that's Anakin into Vader. And so it really plays a great homage into the mythos on that type of journey. And when we look into what is now the abomination of the saga, Disney, it's like they crack that foundation, and there's nothing to it that shows any myths or attachment or even wanting a desire to even be involved with those characters or that plot or that scene. The only thing that great came out of it was John Williams' score. That's my opinion.
That's about it. Yeah. And even then that couldn't save it. Speaking of which, I got a $5 super chat from Terminus EST. $5. He said, Abu, with all the sirens going off, I think I take it back when I shouted, someone called 911, Abu is on fire on the Dark Council on Tuesday. Yeah, because I burnt it down so good on the Dark Council. You know, I got police after me. I got these sucker for love chumps calling the po-po after me. But you know what? I feel like I'm going to burn it down again. I'm gonna revisit, because we are in the OT era now, but everything that we talk about in terms of the OT now is gonna be based off of our feelings, our first impressions, but also to put into context of the prequels that came before it. And what my whole thinking when I do these live streams celebrating each of these movies is that I go back and revisit them in terms of song to just bring you up to speed onto where we at. And even though we had 3 of them to talk about, I said I'll just do pretty much one at a time. But just seeing Anakin's journey, you know, as Darth Vader now, his second life in which he, you know, unfortunately gave himself into, you know, based off of a lie. You know, I always like to see, you know, him wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, and just full of hope and just full of dreams that he used to have when he was a slave, and that he could have been, you know, one of the best Jedi of all time, but unfortunately got caught up. And I said to myself, yeah, this is. I always like to just remind people that these prequels have been made and have been, you know, placed into the lore. So with that being said, I want to burn the house down just for a little while before we go into the third act of this wonderful masterpiece that is episode 4. So you want to join with me as we how should we say, take a trip down memory lane. So let's go. Yeah. Episode 1, y'all. The Phantom Menace, Episode 1. The real Star Wars story has begun. Anakin Skywalker was only 9. He was so sweet and good and so kind. Before he was the greatest villain of our time, he was a great pilot that always shined. Lived on Tatooine, he was born a slave. He only had his mom that he loved every day. He did everything to make ends meet. He fixed everything he found off the street. His destiny changed when he met Qui-Gon Jinn. He won his freedom after racing, but before that he met the angel of his dreams, Padme Amidala, who was the queen. He told his mom he'll be right back when he's strong enough to win it all back. Hold it, yeah, I messed it up, Jack, but rewind that so I can bring it back. He told his mom he'll be back again when he's strong enough to win her freedom. She smiled and told him to not look back. She loved him forever, and that's a fact. As sad as he was, Anakin finally left. Then Darth Maul ambushed him on the set. But Qui-Gon Jinn, yes, was the true vet. He fought the Sith without breaking a sweat. They all got away, then he met Obi-Wan. As they all flew off back to Coruscant, the Jedi Council told Qui-Gon Jinn, "What did you find in the desert, my friend?" He said he found the one that was chosen from the high count of the midichlorians. Mace Windu said, "No, that can't be. This little boy fulfills the prophecy. He is the one, I will train him myself." They said, "Hell no, you got to go help." Queen Amidala reclaimed the throne. The dark side of the Force was now shown. It was Darth Plagueis who saw Anakin for the first time and started panicking. He saw the end of the Sith through him. Darth Bane's plan will be ruined if they don't stop this young boy from doing whatever he think he'll be pursuing. But then he saw Qui-Gon Jinn by his side. He concluded that he'll be a Jedi. He knew right then that boy got to die. In order to keep the grand plan alive, they flew to Naboo and won the whole day. Queen Amidala is here to stay. Darth Maul was dead, but so was Qui-Gon. Yoda was worried something was wrong. Obi-Wan said, "I made a promise for my master to finish this. Train Anakin to defeat the Sith. Fulfill the prophecy, then live in bliss." Yoda said, "I agree, then proceed to teach Anakin everything that he needs." Darth Plagueis died, Sidious arrived to find a new apprentice to be at his side. You see how it all started? You see how it all started? Anakin was already destined for greatness. His future was literally already set. And now by the time we get to episode 4, this pretty much was the end game of what, for lack of a better word, what he screwed up on. This was what his life is now. He is a slave to his emperor, his master, Darth Sidious. He pretty much sees Obi-Wan as the last vestige of the past that he just can't stand to remember. He doesn't even want that part of him to exist. Obi-Wan was alive to remind him of who he was, what he could have became, what he could have done if he would have listened or just took the Jedi code more seriously than even though he did. But he was already caught up in his emotions with his wife, Padme, and then going through the Clone Wars and everything else. He got caught out.
And Sidious basically was seducing him still, so he had that turmoil. And so that's the irony and the tragedy of Darth Vader or Anakin Skywalker right there, is that there is so much conflict. And I believe Sidious is the one that made him, I wouldn't say weak-minded, but basically started planting those seeds to his evolution into Vader.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And one thing we forgot about is that when Luke's training on Han Solo on the Millennium Falcon, and how he was, because many people will talk and say, "Oh well, Luke Skywalker, he is OP, or he's a Gary Stu or whatever," but they don't realize that he had face-to-face training with Obi-Wan, who gave him the same techniques as training as you do see in the prequel trilogy when Yoda's training the younglings.
That's right.
I mean, we even talk about Yoda saying, training I have for you in your, solitude. The communication between, Jedi and Master. And Luke figures this out. I mean, obviously he can communicate with Ben, So he knows how to do these things, or he learns over time, and of course he learns how to communicate, so he can still be trained within the Force because of his ability now to then communicate. Obviously, starting with Obi-Wan. And then gradually teaching him how to do it. First guiding him to Yoda, and then Yoda training him how to do it.
But just the fact that now Anakin comes face to face with Obi-Wan for the last time, and just what I did in that segue to just show Anakin's beginnings, knowing that he was destined for greatness, and just now as you see how everything played out, that damn, this is where we're at. This is where I'm looking at my master, who I thought was my brother, who betrayed me, and he's still wallowing in that misery. And then he says, the circle is now complete. When I left you, I was the learner. Now I'm the master. And he said, only a master of evil, Darth. And then he just and he told him right there, your powers are weak, old man. And it's like, you can't, if you strike me down, I'll become more powerful than you could possibly imagine. Darth Vader, Anakin didn't even know what he was talking about, but he was just caught up in his feelings. And then, in the lightsaber battle was very, very personal. Even though back in 77, it wasn't the type of lightsaber skills that was consistent with their training in the prequels. But that's a mistake that, like I said, in the great scheme of things, we all know that they know the 7, lightsaber forms, and they know that they're the master of it. And obviously their skills in terms of how they fence with each other is much better than what it portrays in the OT. But it's still iconic because when we first saw it,
and I want to expand on that some more as well, is that, okay, again, I'm going to go refer back to Legends. When you read The Rise of Darth Vader, the book, right, because there's a trilogy. So there's Labyrinth of Evil, there is Revenge of the Sith, and then Darth Vader novel. And when you read that, and when he's hunting down the Jedi in that novel, and they're on Kashyyyk, and he's facing some Jedi, his stance and how he's doing is he's going classical style to protect his front part of his body, where all of his life support is at. And so, and then when you get to the psychological thing between him and Obi-Wan on the Death Star, he's remembering everything that occurred on Mustafar when he got his limbs cut off and got left there to burn, and how much basically the high ground Obi-Wan had over him. And so that's a psychological thing that's going on as well. So when Legends came about and they started, expanding Vader in his suit and stuff, they remembered, okay, in the OT, this is how they were fighting. So let's go ahead and show that he's protecting his front. He's going classical style with his saber technique because he's protecting himself, and the suit doesn't give him much leeway to move around as he used to.
And there's a reason for that. I mean, the suit is designed this way for a reason. From the moment that Anakin makes the decision to go to the dark side, his life is nothing but torture. Killing the younglings, that is torturous to him, but he's doing it because he feels he has no other option. Look at it. So it's the suit is designed to keep him in pain, to keep him to keep him on that edge, because the Emperor knows that this is the only guy that can take me out. So if I limit his powers, and I believe, doesn't Darth Vader actually use the Force actively to keep himself alive as well?
Well, he's also he's the pain, and because the suit keeps him in pain as well. The pain actually fuels his connection to the dark side as well.
Again, it's designed for a reason. The Emperor designed it for a specific reason.
Yes, to make him more powerful because he did lose his limbs.
And to keep his anger in
what
terms
is it prone
of the dark
to?
side.
Force lightning.
Yes, and he can't even do that himself.
That's right, Mary.
And not to mention, I mean, and maybe OG, you can expand on this, but after they hunt down all the Jedi, I'm sure there's some years between that. He doesn't really saber duel anybody. I mean,
not really. Ain't nobody on his level.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
He basically uses the Force. When he does have saber duels, it's remaining Jedi, because it takes a while for them to go through. And then, like I said, when you expand more into Legends, like those Force societies, like the Baron Dosage, they go underground because they're in fear, because Vader and the Emperor are fighting, are getting rid of Force sensitives, are bringing them in. They go underground in their own society and stuff so that they don't, or so they could survive a purge.
Right.
And that expands all the way into Fate of the Jedi, when Luke goes on his exile, and it's not self-enforced exile. It's something that he had to do to find out what happened with him and his nephew, or what happened with Jason Solo or Darth Caedus. So that's I'm like tying everything in here. And so Vader doesn't see as much dueling in those years between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, but only when he is going after other Jedi. And again, there's training that he does himself, and then he has this Sith meditation sphere that he goes in. And what's very interesting about that is when he goes and meditates in his sphere, and we do see it in Empire Strikes Back, when he feels no pain is when he's meditating and the light side's going in him. And it's scary when he goes back to the dark side, and that's when he feels the pain.
That's deep. The Gospels according Mark with a C with a $5 super chat. Impressive panel, most impressive. Did you guys give your all-time episode 4 moments yet? No, not yet. Actually, we're gonna save that towards the end. No. We're pretty much going. We're pretty much going through the movie more or less step by step. But yeah, that whole thing between him and Obi-Wan was extremely personal. And then just
Alec Guinness knocked it out of the park. I mean, you saw the look on Alec Guinness's face. Like, he was invested in his role when he did this.
And all the interviews saying that he never cared about it. He said the dialogue was ropey, but he did interview. There was a guy that interviewed him saying, "Yeah, I was really digging, young George Lucas up and coming. It was fresh. It was, it was wholesome. He
says it's not my thing, but after I read it, I had to know more.
Right.
So
he kept turning the pages. Exactly. So I don't want to hear nobody
a guy like that to get interest in something that's new and stuff. That speaks volumes.
But when he saw Luke's face, though, he looked and saw Luke's face, and he just shocked, and he gave a little smile, knowing that his time was up, and that he knew that Darth Vader, Anakin didn't sense that Luke was his son. And I guess maybe that's where the smile came in, like, we still got time. So after he, did the thing that Qui-Gon taught him to, to release himself and go into the netherverse of the Force, then he was done. But of course, Luke lost it. Han Solo said, "Come on, kid, let's get out of here." They hope the old man got that tractor beam, and they flew off. Then they got into it with the TIE fighter. But by the time they got the Yavin, that's when it really picked up.
I didn't get to say what my favorite part was.
No, we're gonna save it towards the end.
Oh, we're gonna do it at the end. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're gonna save it towards the end. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
When we get to Yavin,
I'm so excited.
She's like, I'm ready for this. Let's do it.
Me too, because I already got mine.
Real quick before we move on, like with that scene you talk about where Obi-Wan looks and smiles and then kind of does this. God, okay. I think if you think about it, that's part of Luke's training, because Luke has to learn to essentially focus his emotion. So he puts him in a situation to open him up to that, the emotional state of that communication. They have to be open to it, and I think that really he knew exactly what he was doing.
So so purposely he wanted to just because he was already giving him a little bit of training, but I guess to really step into that next, he couldn't be there to hold his hands. He really gotta.
Right, and I think a part of it too is he had to get Luke to believe and understand everything here. Yeah, he had a little bit of the training with Obi-Wan with the training droid and all of that, but he really needed him to see it. And I think Obi-Wan knew the only way to get him to do that is to get him to understand what was at risk here. So all of these, I think, at least that's what I think this character would think in that moment. Like, all these calculations go through Obi-Wan's head. He says, "Okay, this is the only way." Because we see that happen. We see that happen a lot in Star Wars. The only way to do it is this way.
Right.
So giving him that moment and also creating that emotional tension where people, they've latched onto this character, Obi-Wan.
Like we all did.
Right. Like, oh, he's great. Like, we want him to be our grandpa or our dad or, even an uncle. Like, this is the guy we want in our life. Wait, he's gone? Like that?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah.
Like we're talking about the two most powerful people probably in the universe at this point, and one of them was just killed, gone. So to set that emotional tension, to open up Luke, to bring him in, and to make him realize how real the situation is get him to believe in the Force and understand what the expectation is.
Yeah, because now, as I was getting ready to say, now we get to Yavin, and now we see the entire Rebel Alliance. Now we see what was alluded to for Luke when he was back at Tatooine and everything else. And it's like, wow, this is like a full-fledged rebellion type thing. They got their own ships, they got their own officers, this was pretty much a war. So now they discussing, all right, listen, then we're gonna hit this Death Star, hit the plans from Princess Leia, and this is what we're talking about here. The Death Star has a little Force weakness there, and it's like, you gotta be careful. We gotta go on runs, blah, 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 yada yada. And he said, so we're gonna get this started. Now Han Solo's sitting up there like, all right, well, I got my money and I'm about to be out of here. And Luke was already attached to Han. Luke was already attached to Leia, to a certain extent, but he was kind of attached to Han. Like, yo, we went on this great adventure. Why you want to leave? He got my money, but he was like, damn, man, all right, well, shit. All right, go about your business. If you care about the money, that's all you care about. And then Han was like, yo, what? He didn't even realize how much he was actually digging this kid.
Change. That was Han's pivotal moment of change, because you started seeing the wheels turn, and then we think that he takes off, and bam, and I won't get to that part yet.
Right.
So that's Han's pivotal. That's his part of his hero's journey, his transformation right there.
Yeah, and then now they're getting in these ships, and now the biggest, the big Dukaroo. Now the battle of Yavin goes in full force, and everybody's in there. Red 1, Red 2, Wedge, Porkins, eating a burger and popping some fries. Everybody was getting in there and getting their thing going. And I said, just by the sheer spectacle of it. And then all of a sudden you see Darth Vader get in the TIE fighter. Now, obviously, with the context of the prequels, we already knew Anakin was a badass pilot. But during that time, and I know, Mary, you probably could chime on this, and like, how the hell did this man be the villain, chopping people off using the Force, and he could fly the ship too? He could really
that wigged me out so bad when he goes out and he gets in the TIE fighter, and you're watching, like, it really did wig me out the first time that I saw it, because I didn't expect it.
Me neither.
He was a pilot as well as all of these other things. It didn't feel like it fit for a long time for me, and it was off. It was odd for me for a long time. It wasn't until the prequels came along that really gave it the context that it needed for me to understand. Now I can, all of these years later, it fits perfectly fine for me. But it really did require the prequels for it to stop feeling like such an odd thing.
Here's the thing. Here's my thing with it. If you were really paying attention back in the day, you would have known, because I think Obi-Wan even mentions in the original movie, he says, "Oh, he was the best starfighter pilot."
I know he said it.
And then when Empire comes, it is revealed that Darth. If you would have I don't know. I get what you mean. Yeah, it felt odd, but. If you think about those two movies in context, like when it is revealed that Vader is Luke's father, thinking back onto it, you're like, oh crap! I was a great pilot.
Sure, but at the same time, like, it just felt it looked bizarre. And I'm not saying that the context or that the ground wasn't laid for it. Of course, the ground was laid for it. As far as I'm concerned, Star Wars, not A New Hope, but Star Wars, the original movie, that it is an absolutely stupendous film, and it does its job remarkably well, head and shoulders above most other films I have ever seen in my life. Honestly, there's really only two other films that I have ever loved more, and that was Empire Strikes Back and Beauty and the Beast. And that's it. And then
great movie.
I liked more was another Star Wars film. So it's a really. But I think it's just because he looked bizarre in his big clunky suit in the TIE fighter. He didn't look like a pilot to me. And so it always struck me as odd. I'm not saying it didn't lay the groundwork. It did.
I mean, this is like I said, we were talking about the droids. It feels out of place in the sense that we've never seen this before. This is so different and new. And totally, no, I agree that. Oh my gosh, what are you doing there, Mary? Oh my god,
What the hell? The thing moved?
oh my god,
What the fuck?
he's possessed.
What the hell?
I think I just.
All right, this is freaking me out. This is freaking me the fuck out. The actual puppet. Mary,
No,
and
because
she,
someone in chat, who was it? I forgot who it was. I think it was Riot Kitty said that her image is freaking him out, so she's now playing with the chat right now.
oh, okay. Oh, geez Louise, that just my head is all messed up behind that now.
Okay, so
OG, go right ahead while I just have I have to calm my nerves down with some Xanax or something.
No, you do it, man. Oh my god.
All right, I like that. Now let's see them pretty eyes of hers. I can roll with that.
All right, so with Luke and his TIE fighter, there was a lot of groundwork laid on that. I'm serious, darling.
That's a fix it now because it's
See
too
the
big.
flies like on the camera lens.
Only on this live stream can you find creativity, knowledge, EU lore,
I need
and
to do that with mine. That's fun.
Oh my goodness,
I made it
Okay,
too
so
big. I have to fix it. Whoops.
Yeah, there was groundwork that was laid on that, like Mary said, and I never seen it odd, but because I was just in awe with everything. It's like because it took me out of this reality.
Yes.
And when you listen to it, when they're at the meeting at Yavin, basically they talk about shooting the torpedo down the shaft of the Death Star, and everybody's doubting it because it's such a small target. And there is groundwork laid for that because, the T-16 is basically made by the same company as the X-Wings. So Luke already knew how to pilot, which was no doubt. And then we know, again, that he's a Skywalker. And then from there, he's like, I used to shoot Wampa rats, in my
T-16 at home, right.
And that laid the foundation there. And, the choice of colors for the flight suits, imagine orange for safety because my family's hunters. And so orange is one of the safety colors you would wear. So that would be something that you would wear out there. And if you get stuck in space, you could see. So that's my theory on that. So there was great groundwork laid with that, and again, was something we never seen before. It's something that George expanded and gave us that was brilliant. Again, it takes us out of our own reality into his mind, into his Star Wars.
Beautiful. I love when Darth Vader said after he took out the other two ships, and it's like, Force is strong in this one. Just the fact that he actually felt the Force in this person and it was strong just gave Darth Vader a little bit of pause to just say, okay, well, I got to take this guy completely out, which unfortunately at the last minute Han Solo comes in and
I think that's part of it too. I think that's in that the end of this movie, that's where Vader's weakness lies. He's caught off guard by this. Whereas like Vader, he has a very big sense. Like you tell me he didn't sense the Millennium Falcon coming. Well, he probably would have
had he not been
right. If this was any given day and Luke wasn't there, he's you're dead. Keep going. But because he asked that question, the Force is strong with this one. That's weird. What's up with that? That's odd. Taking his mind off of here comes Han. Bam.
The reason why Vader sensed him is because that's when Obi-Wan he's a Force ghost, mind you, is still training Luke, and he's telling him just open up, give yourself to the Force, basically. And so once he did that, he opened himself up to other Force users to feel him. Yeah, okay. And that was his first connection with that. That's why, in the past, Vader could never sense him or even Leia because there was no training. The keyword training that the DT never gave us. Training, where they have to learn how to open themselves up to the Force to use it. And it's specifically designed that way because the Force is not a MacGuffin. The Force is something that is part of the foundation of Star Wars because we may not get Skywalkers throughout the whole lore of Star Wars, but we do get the Force, we do get Jedis, we do get Force sensitives, we do get Sith or dark, Force sensitives and stuff. And so that's the foundation right there.
So by the time we finally get to that and Luke blows up the Death Star and everybody wins, and just the fact that Han Solo came back and joined with the group and made Luke and Leia happy, and then the big scene where everybody gets their medals except for Chewie, and they gave him that fucking piece of shit at the whatever. So now they're
one of the
walking
most
down.
beautiful songs to ever exist starts playing in the background.
Exactly, and everybody getting their medals, and you just felt the sense of pride and happiness and upliftment. This is what George Lucas said, to uplift you when the movie is over. They gave medals, everybody lived good, and R2 and C-3PO all shiny. Han gives Princess Leia a wink, and she looking at him like, yeah, you're gonna have my babies, no problem. Looked at Luke, and Luke, sitting up there smiling and beaming, and everybody's happy. This is how you're supposed to go out. So with that being said, we got a few minutes before we have to shut down. So what the Gospels according to Mark with a C had mentioned, what is our favorite episode 4 moment? I want to start with my beautiful Mary Mayhem. Mayhem, let me know, what was your favorite episode 4 moment?
Well, I would have to say the most impactful moment for me in all of it is the moment where Obi-Wan Kenobi is fighting Darth Vader, and he puts his sword up to the side, and that's the lead into the moment that you get the reaction from Luke, right?
Yeah.
And you see him scream, "No!" And he's there, and he starts blasting, and you realize all of a sudden the weight and impact that this person, that Ben has had on Luke Skywalker. And then in the moment, because the music is just built, do, and you hear it, and he screams, and then he's losing his mind. He's blasting. He cares nothing for himself. He just wants the moment to be taken back. He can't be gone. He can't be gone. And so he loses it for a moment. And then this is it. This is the moment. This is the moment where it hits you like a ton of bricks, that there's something bigger, that there really is something larger going on here. And that is when you hear Obi-Wan, who we just watched die. Run, Luke, run. He's still protecting him. He's still preserving him. And you see it impact him. And it's that moment where you feel the kinship between these two. You've seen Luke lose it. You've seen Luke absolutely abandon all else, that he's living in this moment where his mentor, the only person he had left, is gone. And yet he's not. And you hear his voice, and it rings through you, and suddenly in the moment of despair, there is still hope.
That's right. OG Star Wars, what is your favorite episode 4 moment?
Okay, so I'm going to be very different on this. There's so many impactful moments because this movie sets up the whole lore. Is when Luke rushes off after he realizes that the Empire is looking for the droids, and they find the Sandcrawler attacked, and he rushes off to go find his aunt and uncle, and he comes upon their hut out there and it's attacked, and you see the flames and the smoke, and everything's charred, and of course you see the bodies charred on the ground, and how he stands there and he's looking out, and you see that pain in his eyes. You see maybe a little bit of vengefulness in his eyes as well, and you see that there's purpose, that he realizes that there's nothing left, and that he hates the Empire because he already told that to Biggs. He doesn't like the Empire, but there's nothing he can do about it, right? And now he realizes there is something he can do about it. He already was given the proposal of taking his hero's journey. He denied it. Now he's accepting it. That's the pivotal moment that I absolutely love.
Beautiful. Odds board, your favorite episode 4 moment.
Well, see, it's funny because I have a lot and they're all equally, but really it's kind of a sequence. Like my first to my third is the moment where they're trapped in the room. I think they're wearing the stormtrooper gear, and they're having the conversation about how they're going to get out of this situation. It's just, there's so many of these human moments. So that leading into the where they find Princess Leia, leading into the dumpster or the garbage, the garbage room scene. It's just these human moments, these interactions that these characters have are so relatable.
Yes.
And they're so like when you like if you could picture yourself in these scenes. But honestly, it is that scene where my favorite moment is when Han Solo they're in the room trying to figure. He's having that conversation with he's like, no, we got a reactor leak here. We're just give us a minute to try to lock it down. Mm-hmm. And then and the guy says, "Oh, what's your operating number?" Yeah, I don't know. Boom, blows the thing up. He's like, "We're gonna have company." Right there, it's like it ramps up right there. They don't have time to think. They're thrown in a situation, and it's just such a human moment, like that right there. Because like, if you were in that situation, Mr. President, tell us how you would handle that. Screw it.
Yeah, I'm out.
All right, let's go. Let's get the hell out of here.
Yep.
So it's just such a human moment, and it's really it takes us back down a little bit, and then brings us back up emotionally. You know, it draws us in, throws us back out, draws us in, throws us back out, which is what we want out of a movie, a roller coaster ride of emotion and fun.
Yeah.
So that's why that's my favorite moment, because it's such a human moment, and I think a lot of people could relate to that. So.
Yep. And mine's it's kind of more on a simple. It really is a simple scene where before they go off and they trying to find the princess. I think between Luke, seeing Obi-Wan walks away from him, especially for the last time he'll actually see him alive and talking to him. And he said, stay here with the droids. If I forgot the memory, but when he segued into your path lies on a different,
right.
mind. Yeah, leans on a different mind. And he told him, looked at him and did in his face. He said, the Force will be with you always. And it was almost like Obi-Wan was looking into his future. He knew it was all coming. Right. You're going to go through many trials, Luke, especially the ones when you finally find out who is Darth Vader. And for some reason, it's almost like the way he looked at him, he pierced through him, just saying, this is where I already know where you're going to be. And I'm already proud of you.
Oh, yeah. You don't think that through all that meditation that Obi-Wan did? Yeah. I mean, he saw glimpses of the future. He knew what this kid was going to do, and he just had to make sure to get him there.
Yeah. And with that being said, let me thank each and every one of you guys for holding it down with me on this OT live stream appreciations, talking about the big daddy of them all, Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. And before we get out of here, I want to treat everybody in the chat with a little something to take us out with. Everybody that's been here. Listen, if you didn't have any time, please go smash the like button for this video so my haters, can know that I actually have some friends here that actually, want to, hear my content and such and so forth. Brecky Browan, Sith Lord, Terminus, EST, Benzo, Renee Patrick, Sith Lord, oh my goodness, Comic Book Bob, hail my brother. Let's see, who else was, Alex Stewart was rocking with us, Riot Kitty rocking hard. Oh my goodness, we had Classy Cannabis, that's awesome.
We're gonna meet up later at Classy Cannabis.
Oh, good. Gospels According to Mark with a C came through. My goodness, like I said, man, we had a lot of people come through. Absent-minded, yeah. Matt's Mama Bear, my girl, Soul Assassin, Fuel the Hatred. Like I said, we got Art Bunker. We just had a lot of people come in, and I'm sorry, Trencher 1375. I'm sorry I wasn't just so wrapped up with the chat because, like I said, this discussion right here, Tracer XL, my brother, doing his thing. I was just so caught up with just having this panel do their thing and just have me open and have me, on my toes. And I tell you what, man, this is just a joy and a half to have people like this in my circle. And I want to celebrate it just by just taking the people out the best way that I know how. So let's do it. All right, now. This is a little something to tell. Uh-oh. Here we go again, fighting with the shills to the bitter end. I don't know why they go pretend that the fandom is only on them, but fighting the good fight is our intent. Keeping them honest gets them straight bent. Listen to the words of your president. The fandom menace is so heaven sent. Use your wisdom and your common sense. Don't back down, use all of your strength. The science of Star Wars is too damn deep to wake these mindless sheep out they sleep. They swear to God that they can't be beat, but then they saw us walking down the street. We can be cordial and get along, but if you step out of line, yeah, it's on. You thought we were small? Well, you're dead wrong. We're legion like the children of the corn. We break you down from dusk until dawn. We'll make you wish you wasn't even born. You have the right to go speak your mind. Do what you need to make Star Wars shine. Challenge anyone that wants to go woke. Pay no attention to what they post. Then when you jump in and straight go for broke, when they lose all hope, they'll go call the Pope to tell them to get these bigots out my face. The Pope said, son, you was the one disgrace. Don't get it fucked up, that's just how we ride. If you can't hang, then you best stay inside. Don't try to front like you're on our side. We'll straight expose all of your lies. Then you get mad and wish that we die. But we don't die, we only multiply. Getting stronger every day that we're alive. Sucks to be you, it's time to say goodbye. Make all the videos that you clowns like. Edit to perfection all day and night. The little fanboys in your comment section get you all hyped up like you're gonna win. Then reality hit your ass so hard. The fandom menace straight got you barred. Broke you down to the lowest compound. Then your ass don't even wanna hang around. But it's cool, let's get back to our show. The people in our chat is a straight pro of handling the business, and that's how it goes. So all you little kids just best slow your roll. My brother Ord's board, you know you can rock. My queen Mary Mayhem, please don't ever stop. OG Star Wars got these shills on lock, and your brother Abu Nas, I stays on the block. The end. The end. And this is the end of the show, everybody, so let's go. Now, just to say goodbye to everybody, Mary Mayhem, final words, parting words.
You know what? They may be able to take away our ability to have good new things, Disney Lucasfilm, but they can never take away what started our love in the first place.
That's right.
They can never take away these original movies. They can never take away the original content because it's out there, and you have that, people. So don't let what they're doing these days muddy the waters and make you feel like what you had before isn't good enough, or that it's somehow tainted, because it's not. Because when you look back like we did today and you remember all of those wonderful moments, they still impact you. They still mean something. And we'll never have to let go of that. We'll always have that.
That's right. OG Star Wars, final thoughts.
All right, you guys. So you have to remember, this is where everything began with Star Wars lore. This is the beginning of the foundation, and this is not the end of it. And I invite you to come and enjoy Legends. I choose Legends because that's where the stories continue. That's where we see Luke Skywalker as Grand Master. That's where we get Darth Vader's grandchildren that George Lucas intended. And he even said in a 2017 convention that Disney Star Wars had Darth Vader's grandchildren to use. Yes. And so I invite you guys to continue to read and enjoy Legends. It's all there. The games, the novels, the comics, all tied in brilliantly. George was brilliant, and that's where the heart is in Legends. And it began with Star Wars.
Ord's board, final thoughts, brother.
First of all, let me say hail President Abu Nas for having me, and hail Fandom Menace for existing.
That's right.
Second of all, here's the thing. No matter how hard you try to bury what the originals are, no matter how hard Disney tries to trash it, change it, make it different, even with George Lucas changing things, no matter, there's going to be people out there who are going to come back and they're going to make these specialized editions. They're going to go back. They're going to make these things historically accurate for people like us, for generations to come, so they can understand what it was, that we loved about it, what it is, and how it exists, and not how it's perverted, and how it's been changed and mixed. And I love that we're talking about, the old movies, the OG. I love that we're talking about legends, because I feel like in this day and age where Star Wars is so popular, people miss out. They don't realize, because Disney has told them there's no EU. There's no content out there for us to make continuity. Well, there is. Don't let these people. Don't listen to these fools. Do your own research. Teach yourself. And if you have questions, go talk to OG Star Wars. She'll tell you what's up.
Let's talk to Mary Mayhem and the other Fandom Menace queens, man. You don't even need us no more. You want women representation? You want all of that? We already got enough hot women in our community that will set you guys right. You don't even need us. So it kills your narrative. It kills your whole flow. And there's nowhere else for you to go behind that.
Yeah, just understand there's a right way or a wrong way to do things. And OG Star Wars, that's the way to do it.
Damn right. So everybody, thank you so much for joining us here. I didn't have any moderators to pretty much put the links in everybody's channel, but really, it's not even a secret. Y'all know these people. Y'all know where they at. So go subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Talk to your friends.
If it's okay, real quick, Abu, I'd like to plug. I'm literally here. Literally, as soon as we get done, I'm going to start.
Oh, yes. Absolutely, Mary.
I'm going to be doing a drunken Fortnite stream over on my channel, so feel free to come hang out, guys. We're just going to have a good time.
Oh, yeah. Get over there and just kick back and have a lot of fun with Mary just doing that Fortnite crap, because I can't do with that.
If you want to do like a Call of Duty stream, a Fortnite stream, like people who don't know how to do it right kind of stream, let me know. I got you.
Oh, okay. Well, like I said, we got to talk. But anyway, everybody, I salute you. We are going to be back here again. I don't know exactly when, but it will probably be within the next few weeks. We're going to start with Empire Strikes Back, episode 5, so you don't want to miss that. So we will see you in the next stream. I had my first thought, but either way, be good to yourself and be good to others. We are out of here. Peace.